Washington is on the move again, and this time the target is Caracas. U.S. reconnaissance aircraft circle above Colombia, American military bases shift into first strike posture, and inside the White House, Donald Trump appears more than willing to push the ignition switch of a new war. But what the U.S. operations rooms do not know is that Nicolás Maduro is already one step ahead. Because Venezuela today is not the vulnerable state the Pentagon imagines. It is transformed into a vast network of traps, a field of hidden fire, choke points, and kill zones waiting for the first American soldier who dares to step south. Heavy equipment has rolled out of its bunkers. Secret drills have shifted into real offensive deployments. Entire front lines have repositioned into near-perfect encirclement zones. So the question becomes, will Trump truly risk entering this swamp? Or will the land itself swallow U.S. forces long before they reach the capital? In the next sections, we reveal the three most dangerous Venezuelan weapons that Washington fears, systems capable of turning any U.S. invasion into a bloodier, more chaotic repeat of the Ukrainian nightmare. Stay with us until the end. The first U.S. convoy won't make it far. This is not a dramatic phrase. It is a fully prepared fire trap battle plan. The moment U.S. forces begin pushing into the Venezuelan interior, they won't find a classic army lined up on open ground. Instead, they will enter a guerrilla-engineered battlefield, dense with ambushes, fortified passages, hidden launch sites, and fighters who know the terrain better than any satellite ever could. And at the heart of this terrain waits a familiar but deadly predator. Number 1. The Russian Concourse, the classic tank killer. One of the most lethal anti-tank missiles ever used in land warfare. The Concourse is launched from lightweight tripods or armored vehicles and uses a semi-automatic wire-guided system. The operator simply keeps the target in his crosshair, the computer does the rest. Its range, up to 4 kilometers. Its warhead, a tandem charge capable of penetrating 600 millimeters of armor after reactive tiles. In other words, it's built specifically to defeat modern explosive reactive armor systems. Inside urban terrain and Venezuela's rugged highlands, the strengths of the American AB Abrams turn into liabilities. The tank's greatest weaknesses lie in its sides and upper armor, precisely the angles its defensive systems cannot cover. When Concourse missiles are fired from building rooftops or narrow roadside pits, the Abrams becomes exposed in the very zones it cannot defend. Within seconds, an entire armored column can transform into an advancing spearhead into burning immobile metal. And that's only the beginning.
The Iranian Almas, the true nightmare of the Pentagon. Some reports claim Venezuela acquired the Almas missile in recent years. This system is believed to be a localized derivative of the Israeli Spike, but with an independent thermal imaging seeker and a combat range of over 8 kilometers. It can be launched from any light platform and automatically identifies, tracks, and strikes its target from above, where almost all tanks and armored carriers are weakest. The Almas does not require the operator to remain in position. Once launched, the gunner can withdraw, relocate, or disappear entirely, an advantage of enormous value in guerrilla warfare, where prolonged exposure means death. These are the very same types of missiles responsible for destroying Merkava tanks in the last major conflict. And the irony? The Merkava, despite its global reputation, is actually better protected on its sides than the American Abrams. So imagine what happens when U.S. armored vehicles push into the tight alleys of Caracas, Almas missiles descending from above, Concourse missiles hammering from the flanks. This is not mere fire support. This is the spearhead of Maduro's strategy, turning Trump's invasion into a second, bloodier Ukraine. The artillery no one escapes, Venezuela's burning earth ambushes. Even if some American units survive the anti-tank ambushes, what awaits them deeper inside the country is far deadlier and far more overwhelming. Here we are not talking about snipers or small guided missiles. We are talking about firestorms, mass salvos that transform open terrain into circles of collective destruction. Venezuelan rocket artillery doesn't sit at the borders and wait. It hunts, it follows, it strikes before the enemy even knows what happened. Leading this hellish orchestra is the Soviet BM-21 Grad. a truck-mounted launcher with 40 tubes of 122mm rockets, capable of firing its entire volley in under 20 seconds, saturating an area of 14 hectares in one strike. But the real terror comes from what experts believe Venezuela acquired with direct Russian support: the Smerch 9A52, a monster of the battlefield. This is one of the world's most destructive rocket systems. It fires 300mm rockets with high explosive or cluster warheads, reaching up to 90 kilometers. A single salvo from a Smerch launcher can obliterate a logistics base, a temporary airfield, an armored landing zone, or a battalion in the middle of deployment. And these systems do not fire blindly. Their coordinates are fed by reconnaissance planes and surveillance drones, turning them into precision strike artillery capable of hitting before the enemy even knew what happened. Venezuelan commanders describe this as the double preventative strike: hit the American force before it advances, bomb its retreat path if it tries to escape. This is not supporting artillery. This is scorched-earth ambush doctrine, wiping out everything inside the kill zone and planting one idea in every U.S. soldier's mind: there is no safe place in this war. The moving hammer, Venezuela's mobile artillery. Even if U.S. forces manage to push forward, surviving ambushes and rocket storms, what comes next is even more precise and intelligent. Venezuela's self-propelled artillery never stays in one place. It fires, relocates, hides, and reappears, a deadly loop known in military doctrine as shoot and scoot. At the forefront of this tactic stands the Russian Mazda-S u.s-19, a 152mm armored self-propelled howitzer capable of maneuvering across all terrains, firing 6 to 8 shells per minute, reaching 29 kilometers with standard rounds and up to 36 kilometers with assisted rockets. It is integrated with digital fire control networks connected to drones and aerial observers, delivering real-time targeting. But its deadliest feature is not the shell, it is the timing. The Mazda-S performs the MRSI tactic: multiple rounds, simultaneous impact. It fires several shells at different angles so they all land at the same moment, delivering a sudden, overwhelming blast that wipes out a position before the first siren can even sound. This is why Venezuelan troops call it the moving hammer. A new Vietnam waiting to happen. In the end, Venezuela does not depend on superior numbers or high-tech dominance. Its entire defense strategy is built on long-term guerrilla warfare, a slow, grinding conflict that could easily turn into a new Vietnam haunting the United States once again. Washington once believed the Vietnam War would end in months. Instead, it withdrew years later, in defeat, beaten by a force with no air power, no navy, only land, patience, and willpower. Will Trump truly risk repeating that nightmare? Or will Caracas become America's next Vietnam? Tell us your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to support the channel with a like and subscription.